and welcome to the show today. I'm very excited to have with me one of my friends from the Simon MBA program. I've interviewed a few guys from the Simon MBA program here, but James Avery here with me was on my team. He actually was one of the guys who we had a lot of late night deadlines together and things to that nature as we made it through the MBA program. And I'm excited to have him on with me today to talk about some of his personal finance woes and wins. I start things out, James. Thanks for being with me today. I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad to be able to talk to you on this, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, awesome. So let's start things out. What would you say has been one of your, I guess, dumbest personal finance mistakes? What's been one of the things looking back was definitely not the best of moves for you?
Well, I think so. In general, I think I've been too much of a pushover when it
Yeah,
comes in relationships, especially when it comes to money. And the biggest single instance of that was I was divorced. Um, when I was divorced, I didn't fight really hard in the divorce. I assumed good intentions on the other side, and so as a result, I put myself in a bad financial situation
yeah,
by allowing too much, paying too much in terms of child support and alimony and all this stuff that for me it felt like I was, being amicable and giving, but I really wasn't watching out for myself. I
yeah,
wasn't making sure that I was going to be financially secure. I
yeah,
was, and so I think that's the single biggest mistake I've made.
yeah.
And it's related to other mistakes I've made as far as being a little too trusting and not looking out for my own
Yeah.
financial security.
Yeah, that's a great one. I mean, taking time to really care about yourself, I think, is an important thing. And I don't think I would say to many people, as far as paying too much child support or alimony or anything else like that goes, but being, I guess, privy to your numbers from what we shared in the past, um, I would definitely say on your side, you've definitely faulted on the side of spending way too, or being too giving, I guess, per se, which I don't think many people would ever think you could be too giving. But with you, I would say you strapped yourself to a point at several stages in your life. It sounded like where
Right.
it basically was unmanageable at points. I mean, you had to have. You have to have the 100K per year type jobs in order to afford those payments. Unfortunately,
Right.
you're in that higher range, not the
Right.
$500 a month range or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and it I think it sounds it sounds bad saying giving too much child support, but what
Yeah,
I think what people don't think about or realize, and I didn't fully realize, is that if you want to be giving in that way, as far as child support, as long as you're in your children's life, which I am very
yeah,
much so, you can be giving directly to them when if you've given up your ability legally
yeah.
to provide, then it puts you in if you've given too much that way, then it puts you in a position where you can't directly provide what you want
Yeah.
for your kids.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I would call you maybe a little bit of a unique case in that regard as far as, being a little bit you faulted definitely on the right side of things, but it's put yourself in a spot as
right.
far as where you're at financially. So on the flip side of that then, what would you say has been one of your smartest personal finance decisions?
So I think what I'm doing now, I think, is probably the smartest thing I've done, which is I own a duplex, which I have for a while now. So it's a two family unit,
Hmm.
and I didn't live in it for a long time. I had bought it and I originally lived in it, but then I moved and I lived elsewhere in more expensive places.
Yeah.
And so now, a few months ago, really, I moved back into the duplex, and so I live on one side of it and then I rent the other side out.
Yeah.
And so really at the income level I'm at right now, just based purely on that, I could um, I I could live in a more expensive place as far as my means.
Uh-huh.
But now I'm living, beneath my means as far as that big picture, as far as the place
Yeah.
that I'm living. It's smaller, and it's because I can rent the other side out. It's my cost of living where I am now is really good.
Yeah. Yeah, which just sounds like it's the perfect move as far as getting finances back in order, and I guess for
Right.
you even it sounds more like getting that financial cushion in place so you can rest a little easier as far as some of that goes.
Right.
In lieu of you've been through a lot with divorce and other things in the prior years that you're at a spot where you're really taking care of yourself financially as far as
Right.
getting yourself back in the right place.
Yeah, and I'd really at this point I'm kind of digging out of that hole right now.
Yeah.
But one of the things I want to continue on is I don't want to, as I dig out of that hole, I don't want to then say, oh, well, now I'm great and I can, have lifestyle inflation.
Yeah.
I want to use the time and be frugal and, dig out of this hole, but then keep those same things,
Yeah.
same way of living and saving
Yeah.
and be in a really good spot later.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Those are definitely some great things to share, and I think you're definitely in a little bit more of a unique situation on some things than others as far as where you're paying too much for some things, but I'm very excited for you right now going forward. It sounds like you're in great spot to really put yourself back on track and really set yourself up for an amazing future as long as you keep at it. And thank you so much for sharing that today with the audience. I know it's definitely more personal and things like that goes, but it's a great story to share that I think a lot of people can learn from.
Well, I hope so, and I'm glad to be able to share that with you and your audience.
All right, awesome. Thank you for your time today, James. And thanks for our audience tuning in. Again, keep tuning in for more of these and other great personal finance tales. You have a good one.